Sure. Okay. Uh, Welcome everyone, and thanks for agreeing and joining us today in celebrating BPNI's 30 years. And my name is Nupur Bidla, and I'm the national coordinator with BPNI. I'm a social worker by profession, and BPNI was one of the organization whom I interned with during my college days when I was doing my MA, and here I am with them. So after completing my MA, I joined them and I stayed here. So I've just completed 10 years with VPNI. So, it's very special to me personally as well. It's like second family. A warm welcome to all of you and our chief guest, chairperson, esteemed panelists, CCC members, and participants. I thank you all for taking out time to attend BPNI's 30-year celebration today. It's a matter of great pride to see BPNI growing and achieving more than we thought it would. And it's been 30 years that we are working for promoting, protecting, and supporting breastfeeding. There's a set of people whom I want to thank on this auspicious occasion from the bottom of my heart. First of all, the present and ex-employees of BPNI who have worked hard in helping BPNI to achieve what it has achieved today. And also, I would like to remember one of our late founding members, an ex-colleague and a member who are no more with us, but we want to remember them today on this occasion. I would like to share my slide. Okay. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes. So we would like to remember Dr. Jagdish Chandra Sopti, who was one of our members and has contributed a lot in BPNI's initial years. Mr. L.R. Gupta. He was very special to us, and he has worked with us for a very long time and managed our accounts department. He passed away in 2018 because of cancer. Radha Hulabhar, who was one of our ex-employees and a leadership team member and a consultant with us. She recently passed away in 2021. And Dr. Darsheen Jindal, he was one of our founding members, and he passed away in 2020.
We pay special tributes to these people who have passed away, and very special to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And next is I would like to share the program with you all. Okay, so today's program would begin with the opening remarks by the chairperson and our chief guest, Dr. Mandana Shiva. Then there'll be a session on foundation of BPNI by Dr. R.K. Anand, who is one of our founding members. Then there'll be a session on the journey of BPNI, 3 decades of struggle and action to protect breastfeeding. That'll be by me. And then we'll have a session on challenges and way ahead by Dr. Arun Gupta, the central coordinator of BPNI. After this presentation, we'll have remarks and expectations from our key panelists, Ms. Drippika Srivastav, who's the former senior advisor and EAC to PM, Dr. Upendra Kinjhavkar, President IAP. If he joins us, he's not here as of now. Dr. Jenny Kemp, who's the Vice President of South Asia Region TNAI. Then South Region TNAI, Dr. Shanta Kumari and Dr. Archana Verma, President and Vice President FOXI, Dr. Gayatri Singh, Child Development Specialist, UNICEF India, Dr. Vandana Prasad, the Technical Advisory and Founding Secretary. She couldn't join us today because she had another event, but she has sent a video message to us, so we'll play that. And Annelise Elen, former Director, International Code Documentation Center, Malaysia. And then Patty Rundle, Policy Director, Baby Milk Action UK. And Mr. Anwar Fazal, Chairperson Emirates, WABA, Malaysia. After that, we'll have the launch of the report by the Chairperson Chief Guest. And then there'll be a vote of thanks and remarks by Dr. KP Kushwaha, who's our Chief Coordinator and a CCC member of BPNI. Thank you. Okay. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Vandana Shiva, the director of Navdanya, who's our chief guest today and the chairperson. Dr. Vandana Shiva is trained as a physicist and did her PhD on the subject Hidden Variables and Non-Locality in Quantum Theory from the University of Western Ontario in Canada. She later shifted to interdisciplinary research in science, technology, and environment policy, which she carried out at the Indian Institute of Science and Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. In 1991, she founded the organization of Danya, a national movement to protect the diversity and integrity of living resources, especially native seeds, the promotion of organic farming, and fair trade. Time magazine identified Dr. Shiva as an environmental hero in 2003, and Asia Week has called her one of the five most powerful communicators of Asia. Forbes magazine in November 2010 has identified Dr. Vandana Shiva as one of the top seven most powerful women on the globe. Dr. Shiva has received honorary doctorates from University of Paris, University of Western Ontario, University of Oslo, and Connecticut College, University of Guelph. Among her many awards are the Alternative Nobel Prize, Right Livelihood Award 1993. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Nupur, and to the entire BPNI family, my warm congratulations for your 30 years of very, very significant work. If one looks at life, particularly human life, then the first food for babies is breast milk. And at this point of history, at this point of evolution, where what is food? You know, what will we call food itself is constantly being engineered, I would say, engineered both in the idea of what is food as well as engineered genetically and with chemicals and toxics. The work that BPNI has done and the entire breastfeeding network is to basically help us remember that we are biological beings in an ecological web of life. And as biological beings, the nurturance we get in our during pregnancy as well as after birth is the nurturance that sees us through all of life. BPNI's work is so important to remind us that children are born. Children need healthy food beginning with breast milk. And as I said, in this period of forgetting, that remembrance is the revolution. So you are revolutionaries, keeping the most foundational, most biological, most natural act that makes for healthy life and makes for healthy society, keeping that knowledge alive, that possibility alive. You all started by remembering those who have passed on. Radha had worked at Navdanya before she went to BPNI. And I want to join you all in remembering dear Radha, an amazing, brilliant force of imagination and creativity in spite of all the health problems she faced. And I also want to remind us that today, while we celebrate 30 years of BPNI, we also cannot forget that we are now in the 37th year of the Bhopal gas tragedy. The pesticide disaster of Bhopal in 1984 and the toxics that are going into our bodies, including the women's bodies, and going into children, and then creating an epidemic of all kinds of diseases, is a very, very important remembrance. I am so happy to join you, and I will come back to you later towards the end. But meantime, congratulations on your 30th birthday, and we look forward to celebrating many decades more of your significant work, BPNI. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your encouraging words. It means a lot to us that you could make it today. Um, Moving on with the program, next I would like to invite the founder member of BPNI, Dr. R.K. Anand. Dr. R.K. Anand, MD Pediatrics, and FIAP India, and FRCP from Edinburgh and DSPH from London. He's a founder member of BPN and pioneer of breastfeeding movement in India. Dr. R.K. Anand is a co-chair of the International Advisory Council of the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, WABA, and a recipient of the Soul of Breastfeeding Award of WABA. And he got convinced about the importance of breastfeeding way back in the early 60s when he worked at Sheffield in UK with Professor R.S. Illingworth, says Dr. Kumta, past president of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, IAP. So Dr. Anand has been committed to the protection of and support of breastfeeding long before WHO and UNICEF started advocating for breastfeeding all over the world. Sir, over to you.
Respected Vandana ji and friends, let me first wish happy birthday to BPNI. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India. Friends, the seeds for the foundation of BPNI were laid about 50 years ago when I saw an ad film about the marketing of infant formula. Around the same time, we as pediatricians were seeing much higher morbidity and mortality among artificial children compared to breastfed children. I was very disturbed. I contacted Consumer Guidance Society of India, then the international organizations of Consumer Union and friend Anwar Fazal, and then some of us felt there is a need for an organization dealing with such issues, so we formed AAKASH, Association for Consumers Action on Safety and Health. And then I went to Geneva to attend the World Health Assembly, where the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute was to be discussed and later passed. And I was thrilled there because I met stalwarts from all over the world who were doing their best to protect, promote, and support breastfeeding. I was energized. And then, of course, I also met delegates sent by the government of India on this important issue. Came back, I thought our pediatric colleagues should be involved more and more. So in 1984, we set up a committee for protection of the child consumer in the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. By then, Arun had come to know this naughty boy, contacted me and said, I would like you to come to Jalandhar, where he was practicing, to talk my friends in the medical profession who needs what you talk about. So I did go there. And from then on, our friendship grew. And over the years, we went to so many forums, including the IFAN forum in Manila, meeting analysts in Kolkata. And it was wonderful working with him. And then talking to him, we realized that we need to train our friends in the medical profession in lactation management. And then we organized a workshop in Devlali in Maharashtra, later on in Wardha, and we were very fortunate to have Dr. Felicity Savage from UK and Mrs. Helen Armstrong from America. The delegates were very, very happy. And on the last day, which was 3rd December, 30 years ago, 1991, they all felt we now need an organization to continue this agenda forward. And thus, they decided it should be called Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India. So 30 years ago, on December 3, 1991, BPNI was born. Now Arun had shifted to Delhi, and myself, my friend Dr. Kumta, we both felt now this organization should be properly formed. So we met Arun in Delhi along with Dr. Tarseem Jindal, and all 4 of us contributed rupees 1,000 each and requested Arun if he could take on the responsibility to carry it forward, and he readily agreed. And we continued our efforts in protecting, promoting, and breastfeeding. And BPNI, with Arun's support, the same support, fortunately got its legal entity in July 1992. Over these years, the government's committee, which was formed for regulating the marketing practices of infant milk substitute producers, and by then they decided to include BPNI Akash to inform the government if there is any violation of the act. And this is how BPNI took its shape and given responsibility for this important issue. Sometimes I'm asked, was there any opposition, Dr. Anand, to you? Of course it was. Of all the person, the founder of the White Revolution, Mr. Verghese Kurian, he fought tooth and nail to see that the IMS Act doesn't take form. But truth prevailed and IMS Act was enacted. Then a petition from UK. You see, it just happened like that in 1996 May, I was invited to Royal Society of Medicine in London for a lecture on breastfeeding. In my lecture, I referred to Dr. Dobbing, who had come to Bombay to take part in a workshop, and there he had said, how can poor women like those living in India can adequately breastfeed their children so that their growth is proper. So of course I challenged him, but when I had referred his name in my lecture, naturally he was not happy. But after my lecture, the editor of the British Medical Journal asked me to write an editorial on health workers and the baby food industry, which I did. Now, after listening my lecture and after reading my editorial, Dr. John Dobbing was furious. He wrote a very nasty letter to the editor in the British Medical Journal saying that he never said such a thing. Fortunately, there is something like truth which prevails. And we could find the proceedings of that workshop where all this was reported and what he had said. So in my reply to him in the BMJ, I referred to this proceedings and also gave references to many scientists who have shown how even poor as well rich can adequately breastfeed their children. Of course, they all need support. So friend, opposition will come, doesn't matter. That is why friends like Arun need support of all of us. And I will end by saying that let us join hands together by singing the 4 lines of a Hindi song. राह बनी एक मंजिल पीछे रह गई मुश्किल राह बनी खुद मंजिल पीछे रह गई मुश्किल साथ जो आए तुम राह बनी खुद मंजिल.
Thank you.
Dr. Arun, if you could explain this song, maybe, for people who couldn't understand Hindi.
Dr. Anand, please explain.
You see, if you are on the right path, it itself becomes your target where you have to reach. And when friends are along, it will happen and we'll reach our goal and will achieve our mission. And so does the Alchemist book says that when you are fighting for the right cause, the universe, the cosmos, join hands together to see that your wish is fulfilled. So come, let's join hands together and continue this battle together to help, protect, and promote breastfeeding throughout the world.
Thank you, Dr. Anand, and you were absolutely on time, so we are on track. Thank you for that. Next is my presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to talk about BPNI's journey and 3 decades of action and struggle to protect breastfeeding. To begin with, after the foundation in 1991, I hope I'm audible?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so after the foundation of BPNI, the very first initial works that we did was to enroll trainings, the skill training of health workers, and we do courses for middle level trainers, we create national trainers, then we also develop counseling specialist also. So all of these health workers and health professionals trained by us, they are in various government hospitals and private hospitals helping mothers directly. And BPNI since 1992 have been on the roll for conducting trainings across India, and we've done a couple of international trainings as well on breastfeeding skills. and we have worked in almost 17 states now, and we are still getting a lot of demand for breastfeeding counseling training. And all these health workers have been able to help thousands of mothers in improving, in being successful at breastfeeding. And we also at office do receive a lot of calls from mothers who know about us or who get a reference from trainers like these. We also run an app where people can locate the lactation counselors trained by us around them. So this work is going on since then. And in the initial years, when WHO was who launched the WHO launched the baby friendly hospital initiative, BPNI and with other allied partners and relevant partners and breastfeeding advocate was also advocating for BFHI to be implemented in India. And with UNICEF and IMA, we were able to get that program in India. And in between 1993 to 1998, BFHI was launched, and the initiative certified or accredited, you can say, 1,200 hospitals as well. But this work couldn't sustain because of a lack of resources. And the one of the key works also was to celebrate World Breastfeeding Week. We initiated this work in 1992 following the theme from Baba, and now we've built a legacy in India where every year the government supports and celebrates the World Breastfeeding Week, and it is celebrated across the country by individuals and doctors and breastfeeding advocates, nutrition experts. And we also run a competition every year where we call for reports of celebration around the country. And every year, there's some sort of social mobilization that happens, and we receive at least on an average from 12 to 15 states, we receive reports of various medical colleges celebrating it. And these are the action folders. This is the action folder from 1994, and the theme was on IMS Act. And this is from the recent World Breastfeeding Week folder. As far as the international work is concerned, BPNI joined hands with the international network, IFAN, International Baby Food Action Network, in 1998 in Manila. And then in 2002, BPNI became the regional coordinating office for IFAN Asia. And in 2004, it became the regional focal point for IFAN South Asia. We participated in the forums also, represented India and our region internationally, and we introduced the World Breastfeeding Trends Initiative, which is an initiative, which is a flagship initiative of IFAN Asia and BPNI. And it basically monitors the policy and programs of around the world of various countries. It generates local leadership. It asks people to take a stock of where they stand in terms of policy and programs for IYCF. And now WBTI is strong in 98 countries. Here is the screenshot of the website of IFAN, and we're going to see the screenshot of our website of WBTI. Here you can see the World Breastfeeding Trends Initiative also inspired BPNI to launch a state-level initiative called SBTI. It's called the State Breastfeeding Trends Initiative. And in the past 2 years, we have conducted the SBTI assessment for 2 states, for Tamil Nadu and for Maharashtra, and UP is underway. And this is a website. Here you can find data from 98 countries on 10 policy indicators, and even find their data on their practice indicators as well. So all the report cards are available here. And for India, we have done 5 reports till now on policy and program. It's a great advocacy tool to convince government to take action and invest in breastfeeding. And our work with IFAN actually also led to development of the film Tigers, and it is about a story based on a person who was a whistleblower of Nestle from Pakistan, Mr. Amir Raza. And this movie actually talks about the entire work, encapsulates our work beautifully, and it's story of Amir, how he became a whistleblower, and then all the struggle that he had to face and had to leave his country, and now he lives in Canada. And Imran Hashmi team did a great job in this film, and even release of this film in India was a struggle because everyone knew that it is about Nestle, and market forces are behind it to not release it. So it's finally on a OTT platform on Z5. You can go and watch it. It's a beautiful film. And I want to throw light on our journey or the trajectory of IMS Act, and how in 1992, when we, with our partners advocating for the IMS Act, in 1993, finally the act came into force. In 1994, BPNI filed a criminal case against Nestle because they violated the IMS Act. Then in 1995, Nestle was summoned in the court, but we eventually, a lot of happened in between, and in 2014, we eventually lost the case, and it was on the grounds that the Union of India wasn't present and wasn't taking the ownership of it. So as we were gadgeted by the government of India to initiate action whenever a violation occurs, but it is the government of India who has to take the ownership for this case. So we lost the case in 2014. It was a long battle. Then in 1995, we were gadgeted by a gadget notification by government of India to take action whenever there's a violation occurs. And we till date, we monitor the baby food industry, and we document a report every year and submit it to Health Ministry and WCD Ministry. And in 2003, IMS Act was amended, and it was amended to ban the promotion of baby milks and foods for children under 2 years of age. And the Amendment Act also protects pregnant women and new mothers from being targeted by the companies. And in 2005, we saved the IMS Act from being repealed. So there was a lobby which wanted the law to be repealed for their vested interest. But we did a lot of campaigning. We wrote to the Prime Minister, we wrote to the Food Safety Ministry and ministers at that time, and we were able to save it from repeal. And one of BPNI's biggest strength has been lobbying and advocacy work and building alliance. So in 2006, we had a milestone moment where we were able to join hands with 16 professional organization, and we launched a joint statement, and we presented it to the Prime Minister and the Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission. And even today, we stand strong with all of those partners, and whenever there's a need, they're with us to support us. We met the Prime Minister of India in 2007 and shared this with him, and it actually resulted in official recognition of the importance of breastfeeding in his address to the nation on the 15 August 2007. So this is one milestone. Then BPNI was fortunate to be a member of the Prime Minister Councils on India's Nutrition Challenge in 2008 in the response to the continent advocacy to reduce malnutrition. Prime Minister Council on the Nutritional Challenges was constituted, and Dr. Arun Gupta was nominated to be a member. And then in 2010, the Council recommended multi-sectoral action, restructuring of ICDS scheme, and creating nutrition awareness and focus on under 2s with a special emphasis on breastfeeding. In 2012, we organized the first ever World Breastfeeding Conference in 2012, and we built a legacy. And now every 3 years, World Breastfeeding Conference is organized. It has been done in Latin America. It has been done in Africa. Now the next one in 2022 is in Egypt. And this is one of IFAN's flagship work that we have done. And in this particular workshop, we were able to get a lot of support and resources and funding, and as well as participants from around 80 countries, and we had around 800 participants in this conference. BPNI also through his journey realized the need of developing or conceptualizing think tanks who think in public interest and who take notice of if any activity happening around nutrition policy or breastfeeding policies which are filled with conflict of interest. So we do identify conflict of interest, and we call out and we write to them and to the government and request them to take action, and that has worked also. So BPNI conceptualized AKI, in 2010, Alliance Against Conflict of Interest, and NAPI in 2017, Nutrition Advocacy in Public Interest. And NAPI is chairperson was Dr. Keshav Desi Raju, who recently passed away. And with his leadership and all our NAPI members, we were able to create a stir. In the government or in an environment where our policy making bodies are filled with conflict of interest, and we were able to call out on celebrities as well, and especially the case where we called out on Amitabh Bachchan's association with Horlicks, and he was trying to promote a series on child nutrition, and we were able to get a lot of media attention, and he called off that partnership with Horlicks, which was a big achievement for NAPI. And now I would like to end my presentation with the new initiatives that we have developed, and they're basically the idea behind them to become self-sustained. This is one lesson that we have learned over the years, considering the kind of ethical policy that we follow, where we do not take funds from anyone who has a conflict of interest or any baby food industry or manufacturer of baby food or equipments. So their funding is an issue. So we have decided to launch new initiatives and work on them and be self-sustained. So first one is I'll begin with the ultra processed food one, because we started this work 4 years back, and we've started working on this, and we're working on front of pack labeling and warning labels right now. And that work we have organized a lot of webinars and have tried to create a network of almost 100 people who believe in this issue, who believe that India needs strong warning labels. And we were able to get a lot of media attention. Also, you can see a screenshot of the coverages that we have received in the past. And then we have launched I Decide. It is a platform where we are giving an opportunity to pregnant women to take their feeding decision during their pregnancy, because it has been seen that no one talks about making a feeding decision or taking a feeding decision during pregnancy. It's like a surprise, to mothers when they deliver the baby. Then they think through that, how do you do it now? So we are encouraging this dialogue and this decision making through this platform, and it has a minimal fee where mothers can go enroll and watch 6 to 7 informative modules and take the decision. And it has a facility of writing to their doctor as well, that they have decided to breastfeed their child and they need appropriate support. Okay, and the last but not the least is the breastfeeding friendly hospital initiative. We are planning to launch this in December itself, and here we are trying to revive the BFHI, the accreditation, through this. And we've got support from the Association of Healthcare Professionals for implementing this. And about our struggles now, I would like to request Dr. Arun to take it forward. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nupur.
I'm sorry if I took a bit more time. Sorry.
Not a problem at all. It's not easy to talk about 30 years in 15 minutes. And you have done a great job in actually highlighting the key and strategic elements of our work. And thank you so much for doing this.
Let me just introduce you, sir, before you start. So I'll just quickly do that. Yeah. So welcome, Dr. Arun. He's the central coordinator of BPNI, and he's a pediatrician, a fellow of Indian Academy of Pediatrics, who chose to give up his lucrative practice and founded the Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India in 1991. He focuses on policy analysis regarding support to breastfeeding women, child nutrition, and conflict of interest. He writes nationally and internationally. He's the creator of IFPHAN's World Breastfeeding Trends Initiative. He's the convener of the Alliance Against Conflict of Interest and Nutrition Advocacy in Public Interest in India for policy level inputs. Over to you, sir.
Right. Thanks a lot. Very good evening to all my friends and mentors who are here today, and both nationally and internationally, Dr. Anand, Anwar, Annalise, and Patty, and many friends from India. Dr. Kushwaha, he is here, Kumuda, And I've learned a lot from all of them right from the first day of my life when I joined breastfeeding, more formally in 1989 when I first met Annalise in Manila. And probably the turning point in my life came from that when I came back that we must do something. While we were in discussion with Dr. Anand at that time, that something in India lacks and we must do something. But that probably turned into a change, a big change in my life, which I really love it for 30 years, that stop clinical work and, and get into the public health advocacy work and all. So anyway, I won't take, this is very, very long. I can speak up hours for it, but let me use my 13 to 14 minutes to let you know what the challenges we are facing and how we mitigated them and what are our way forward demands both from the government and from ourselves. So when we completed that, today we complete 30 years after being born on December 3rd, 1991. And we were born when the breastfeeding was declining, actually, the point I was making. In 70s and 80s, India showed that breastfeeding is declining in one of the studies. So that was the reason, one of the reason that which was bothering me. And second was that the free supplies of baby formula, especially the lactogen by Nestle, was all around in the hospitals in a town called Jalandhar in Punjab, where I used to work. I had my practice there for 11 years, but I found that there were 17 maternity hospitals in Jalandhar. All the 17 hospitals, they were using formula at birth. Every baby coming out of them was given a lactogen tin. So these two things were really bothering, which led me and then the friends nationally and internationally. When I saw their energy, I got motivated to jump into this area. So 91, when we created this platform called BPNI, we stood very strong on ethics right on the day one. So that was a critical part of what should be the ethical policy. So not to receive funding from any sources where there is even a suspicion of conflict of interest. It was like justice should seem to be done. It was not just justice should be done, justice seems to, so similarly is the policy of ethics, that ethical policy should seems to be working, not just we are ethical. So that was something for protection, promotion and support that we really stood for. And as Nupur said, that we are now beginning into new work, which will also help self-sustain itself. So we're keeping a little small price for people to pay for the services that we hope in next decades, probably BPNI will be able to get itself free from the donors, where the donor priorities keep changing. It's not always easy that they should keep to the priority of breastfeeding funding. So which is a very, very difficult task for donors also. I'm not saying they're doing wrong, but it is up to them to decide. So that's where the whole point of ethics and the new work has emerged. Now, the point on what we did we did an analysis of our work, that how it led to a change. So I will not take time because Nupur has told you about the work. But if I will draw your attention when you go back home, we will share the full report of 30 years of analysis. In few pages in the table, we demonstrate how the work over these years have led to the change in the policies and programs in India, which are now contributing after first 15 years of plateaued breastfeeding. Now they are contributing to rise in breastfeeding. So I would call that this is an era of beginning of the rise of breastfeeding. So I think it requires a lot of push now that we sustain this. It's not easy. It can fall back if we just withdraw ourselves. The breastfeeding rates can fall back. So that's the point I want to make. And that's where comes the younger generation. You heard Nupur. She is the one who is going to take it.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Arun got emotional, I think.
a minute. Not easy.
Yes.
The challenge is like I'm now going to specifically about the challenges. Now, baby food industry, the first one is they're getting far more aggressive. But the reason being is that they are far more aggressive because the government is not doing anything. Government is not taking legal actions on the industry, which is we try and continue to report to the government that they are violating. We could create the evidence, but the problem lies that it's hard for them. The new things which are coming up is like cash incentive to doctors, hiring mommy bloggers. The mothers are hired to act as bloggers. Sponsoring of doctors' meeting doesn't stop at all. So in spite of the fact that we continue to highlight this, unless we get into this prosecution and investigation, because this is a criminal law, I think that's where there's a very big challenge. Not in my hands. I think the government has a power to solve this and mitigate this challenge. So we are requesting the government to do this. This second part is the challenge is the hospitals, where like 90% women in India now deliver in the hospitals, but only 40% are able to start breastfeeding within an hour. Now, what is the problem there? The problem there is that increasing rates of cesarean section. Number one, it is an assumption by the health workers or mothers or the families that if you had a cesarean section, the breastfeeding cannot be done. So I think that jinx must be broken, and it is possible to break, but this is currently we are finding it is a very big challenge to breastfeeding. So we need to all work together to get that. All cesarean births, they get the first hour breastfeeding. Otherwise, it will be hard to sustain exclusive breastfeeding, which we have slightly gained in the past. So, professional associations. Now, they continue to be misinformed, whether it's pediatrics or National Neonatology Forum or any other professional organization. The companies come and tell them, okay, this is National Nutrition Institute, this doesn't violate the law. Oh, this is Abbott's Foundation, or this is Danon Foundation, or this is that. So they don't. Or the new thing which we have found is, Abbott comes and tells, oh, this is the medicine division of Abbott. So it's a vaccine division of Abbott. So they are getting the money from vaccine division. So we have investigated, probably this is a big challenge, both for the professional associations to say no. The answer lies in saying no to directly or indirect funding from any of these industries. Now, when I say government's failure to initiate investigation, why I said so, I think in the past 2 years, we might have reported about 33 violations. There have been some letters government has written from one department to another, but we haven't seen any investigation launched by the government or launching a prosecution against the violators. We are not saying they should be jailed, but we are saying there should be investigation. If investigation finds, prosecute them. Then the law will take its own course. So that's one thing which I think is very, very important. Now, related to the healthcare system, there's one more thing which I want to highlight as a challenge. Pregnancy is ignored as a decision-making point for breastfeeding. It's hardly, in our research, we found the World Bank did a research in 2019, and they said in one of the 16 hospitals they investigated, they found only few out of 153 women, only 1 or 2 women, they were counseled for breastfeeding during pregnancy. So that's a big challenge. I think we should, BPNI is trying its own by launching the new projects, reaching out to pregnant women, but that's just a drop in the ocean. So I think all women during pregnancy should be investigated, and there should be talked about breastfeeding. Currently, we are not doing it. Unhealthy foods marketing. Now, as Vandana also pointed out in the beginning, and BPNI, as Nupur has said, we are going to start it. I think this is an ecosystem of packaged processed food, which is probably thrown into every home, and India is growing fast into that. It's not currently as the level of UK or US, but I think India is also fast growing into that. So that's going to be a big challenge if that also comes, because earlier there was a law to be repealed, call given by the food industry and food processing industry. It took us 4 months on the streets to get that law back. So if this market push comes, there will be a problem. So that's another challenge, that we need to control marketing. We are not saying stop the factories. Those who want to eat, let them eat, but let the people know what is it in it, what the food contains, as well as ban marketing of celebrities, ban marketing of high sugar and high salt fats, so that people don't drive their consumption through this marketing. So few of the way forwards, I will try to put them into a small piece of 5 demands. So first I would say all these demands can also help in mitigating these challenges. So mandatory healthcare. So first demand is mandatory. So that's a way forward for the government and all the partners. So mandatory healthcare system support to mothers during pregnancy as well as at the time of birth. Unless it is made mandatory, it will not happen, because casual approach is not at all helping us. Number 2, I'm requesting today the government of India to change the business of rules of managing the IMS Act from Ministry of WCD to Ministry of Health. It is all the problem lies in the health sector, and the law and the Ministry of WCD is sitting idle. Nothing is being done. So change the rules. Not very difficult. Prime Minister's office can do it. So we are going to write also to them. But this is my second thing, which probably can settle forever. 30 years of law, IMS Act has not resulted in any prosecution except the one which was filed by Akash in Mumbai and one by me in here. We were defeated because of the lack of support of the government, actually. Third, start counting the GHG emissions of formula. So Ministry of Environment actually and the climate change should take note that we start counting this as the GHG emission of formula feeding. Fourth, create an empowered and competent human resource at the block level, where the population of 60 to 70 villages, where this competent team can handle growth monitoring and food of the babies, so they get the adequate diet. Currently, only 1 out of 9 children are getting adequate diet. There must be something seriously wrong. It's not just the knowledge gap. If they don't have the food, provide that food. Somebody has got to provide that food. If you cannot alleviate poverty over 1 year, but you can provide food within 1 year. So that's my demand. That fifth and the last, the most important overriding of all of that, to the government of India, earmark funding for all these actions which we want. Only then these challenges can be, mitigated. So that demand probably goes up to around 1 crore per district, according to the estimate, which is not a big amount. The government can spend that money, put it in the budget line, link these activities to those budget lines. So this is all I wanted to say in the challenges and way forward. And internationally, the last point I want to make, the BPNI must continue its sustainable initiatives, I decide, as well as the breastfeeding friendly hospital initiative we started in India. Once we are getting some success, we will introduce in other countries also. But World Breastfeeding Trends Initiative, I see that IPFAN can continue globally, and BPNI will continue to support that. So with this, I will end here, and over to you, Nupur. Thank you, everyone. And if you do have any questions or comments, please write. If we are not able to answer today, we will certainly do it over the next few days. Please don't hesitate to ask questions to us. Over. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Arun. Moving on with the program, now I would like to invite Ms. Drippika Srivastav, former Senior Advisor, EAC to the Prime Minister. Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And I hope I'm audible now.
Yes.
Yes.
So, respected Chairperson, Dr. Vandana Shiva, respected Dr. Anand, Dr. Arun Gupta, Dr. Kushwaha, Nupur, and eminent panelists, esteemed colleagues and friends, most of whom have been a part of this wonderful journey of the last 3 decades. And it's just great to also see Annalise, to see Anwar and Patty, and many more colleagues and friends. But first of all, I would just like to thank you for the privilege of connecting with you all on this wonderful occasion, and extend deep appreciation to Dr. Arun and the entire BPNI team on the completion of 30 years of BPNI. I'm sorry I can't sing happy birthday, but there we are. And it's 3 decades of significant milestones with wonderful years ahead of us. And Nupur has done a superb job of highlighting these, so I don't really want to repeat all that, and it's difficult to do justice to so much that has been achieved. I just want to add 1 or 2 perspectives to it. One is that, what stands out for me as a turning point was in 1998, was the finalization of the BPNI UNICEF Government of India Partnership Initiative, and shaped to quite a large extent by our very dear friend, the late Dr. Kamal Islam, who also I am remembering today as we discuss what has happened and what has taken us forward. In the second decade, I see that, there was such tremendous progress in all the strategic areas of work. And also, I think that was the decade in which India emerged as a global learning model. And it was positioned as such because of a lot of the work that BPNI did. And it was shared, it was discussed, whether it was the third partners meeting in Costa Rica, the Innocenti consultation, the Asia Pacific Conference. I just remember that as a period where and I see Dr. Anand smiling at Costa Rica was a very great sharing experience. So I think this is something which really stands out in my mind. And if I think of the last decade, I would say this will always be remembered as a sort of the decade of transformative policy advocacy by BPNI, the entire team and partners, both nationally and globally. And a lot has been said, so I don't want to repeat that, but I would just say whether it was influencing ICDS restructuring, maternity protection, whether it was, the design of the National Nutrition Mission later to become Poshan, the National Nutrition Strategy, and working in partnership with governments, with the Planning Commission, then Niti Aayog, and the Economic Advisory Council to PM with that last report. So I think this has laid a very good foundation for future work. And when we're looking at building on how we're informed by NFHS 5 on what has already taken place and moving forward, I think Arun has very nicely etched out what are the challenges, what are the expectations, what do we really need as we move forward. So I just want to build on what he said and just maybe add a little bit of a perspective to that. So as I can see that there is a need to enhance the resource investment by all partners, government and the other partners, as we've been involved in this movement for so long. Then I think the need for the development of national, state, and progressively district plans of action for infant and young child feeding, that is needed. And it's something that has been discussed a lot of times, but unless it really happens, I think we are going to find that, the challenges will persist. And then the creation or the strengthening of national, state, and progressively district resource centers for IYCF. So the entire work that has been described and we have learned, without this, it's not going to be easy to get decentralized action actually happening. And what has been said, and I would just repeat, yes, rooting infant and young child feeding and nutrition more strongly in health. And I think, especially in a post-COVID environment where there is a lot of effort and attention going to the strengthening of primary health care, we need to make sure actually that this happens in a big way. Strengthening BFHI and, of course, progressively moving towards linking with baby-friendly communities and the action at community level, as Arun had also identified. And the fact that there are 256,101 Gram Panchayat development plans with an enhanced devolution of resources indicates that there are possibilities. If things come together in the way that we've been discussing, then definitely there could be a lot happening at community level. I don't want to take more time, but finally, I just want to end with perhaps it's more like a question. Perhaps the time has come for us to think about an e-network for public health nutrition, which is all of us here today, but also, many more who also BPNI has been linking with, working with, we're discussing other dimensions like environment and, so on. And maybe that is something that can be considered. And once again, I would just like to say that I would express my deepest appreciation, heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Arun, to BPNI, for all that I learned during this journey. It's been tremendous learning, and the mentoring that one received, and there are many more like me who have received this mentoring. And I think apart from the professional excellence and the milestones, it's the high values, ideal, ethics, the team spirit, and the spirit of not giving up that we've all learned together. And therefore, I think we can all together look forward to many wonderful years ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your encouraging words. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Jenny Camp, Vice President, South Region, TNAI. Over to you, ma'am.
A very good evening. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Respected dignitaries of BPNI and executive members of esteemed associations, I deem it a great honor and privilege to deliberate and celebrate the 30 years of bonding with BPNI. I represent the century-old largest nurses association in the globe, namely the Trained Nurses Association of India, in short called the TNAI. Hearing the history and journey of struggle and enthusiasm to oppose the impossible to achieve the possible is only possible with BPNI. Truly, you build the economy of the country by providing a healthy nation with healthy human capital. Well, 30 years of yeoman service by BPNI deserves the respect and support of all the people of goodwill who will cherish the motherhood and the importance of breastfeeding. Today, it is a great jubilation to commemorate 30 years of strong patronage of supporting the world's best food to the children of today, who will be the strong foundation of our incredible India. BPNI's effort to protect, promote, and support breastfeeding in India has gone a long way to bring down the infant morbidity and mortality in India. I congratulate BPNI for doing the COP's job to monitor and report on the compliance with the infant milk substitutes, feeding bottles, and infant, and I guess you have all the authority to do so with the Act of 1992 and the Amendment Act of 2003. A decade back, that is in the year 2011, the Trained Nurses Association of India, namely the TNAI, had signed a joint statement on infant and young child feeding, ensuring optimal infant nutrition, survival, and development. The very next year, that is 2012, TNAI was a partner for the World Breastfeeding Conference, which was held during December 6th to 9th. Thereafter, year after year, the World Breastfeeding Week. Congratulations to our. Hello? Is it okay?
Sorry, ma'am. Oh, there was some disturbance. You can continue. Sorry.
Okay. Year after year, the World Breastfeeding Week was commemorated from August 1st to 7th by TNAI by conducting workshops for the nurses to remind one another of their responsibility to promote breastfeeding. On May 4th, 2020, the BPNI, in partnership with TNAI, described how to practice breastfeeding during the COVID-19 pandemic, having been alerted to mothers and babies being separated after birth and who were bottle fed. On August 6th, 2020, BPNI organized a webinar in collaboration with TNAI in supporting breastfeeding for healthier planet. And in March 19th, 2021, BPI launched a webinar on I Decide About Feeding My Baby in collaboration with our association. And once again, I had the honor of being the speaker during the webinar. Okay, so it is our long association has been with BPNI has been very joyful. To conclude, I only wish to state BPNI and the associate members need to emphasize to all the women and not to forget the men also that breastfeeding is not a choice, but a responsibility to promote and protect breastfeeding. I also wish to state that we as members need to build the determination of the mother to breastfeed the baby, as breastfeeding is 90% determination and 10% milk protection. With this, I salute to BPNI for all the good work and I wish you good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jenny Camp. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Gayatri Singh, Child Development Specialist, UNICEF India. Over to you, Dr. Gayatri.
Very good evening to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
A deep appreciation, and it's an honor to be part of this historic moment. And as each one of you was recounting the journey of BPNI, I realized that I was fortunate to be part of this with BPNI, but I think I joined at a time when BPNI was very well established. Like Drippika mentioned, the second decade of BPNI is where I started working. And thank you, Drippika. I think she was the one in UNICEF who introduced me to working with BPNI, and the journey continued. It's a really honor to be part of this journey and to hear such inspiring stories of your struggle and perseverance. So do recognize that what we have done in breastfeeding has built on the work that you started way back 30 years ago. So congratulations and a recognition and appreciation for the work that has been done by BPNI. I've been fortunate to work with BPNI both at the state level as well as the national level. So a lot of learnings have come from this work. And we have celebrated our successes together. We have contemplated on our failures and trying to learn how do we move the needle further, because definitely there are missed opportunities and much more can be done. Reflecting on what is it that we can do together, I'm reflecting on the work that we have done. Huge appreciation for the work that you have done for the IMS Act. You have technically guided the nutrition teams in the states on the act. And let me assure you, the seeds that you have sown, because very often it was a recognition that sometimes the violation is because of some misinformation. There is a need to see that this work continues at the state level. So we will work with the state colleagues and will draw on the technical expertise of BPNI to see how do we further this work on IMS Act, especially in the context of COVID, where we know the violations are more likely to happen, as there are concerns that both caregivers and service providers have around breastfeeding. And let's see that how we use COVID as an opportunity to strengthen the work on breastfeeding. So we will draw on the technical expertise on BPNI. You have been such strong advocates. I think when you would have started, that would have been a time when people say, why breastfeeding? You know, because I remember when we started work on this, it was also why breastfeeding. It's so natural. India is a breastfeeding nation. And today, because of the work that you all have done, breastfeeding is considered so central to child survival intervention. And I'm sure very soon it will also be part of the child development interventions. So we do see BPNI as a strong advocate, reminding government of where we are. We value the reports that you take on the status of breastfeeding. And Dr. Arun did mention that that's an area of work they will continue, because it's really, with the breastfeeding needs to be high on the agenda. What we can do at UNICEF level is to support advocacy with program intervention to see how changes can be made. So we look forward to joining you in advocacy of efforts on breastfeeding as well as healthy foods, because that's an area where we really need to work and see how do we educate families on healthy foods. BPNI has provided platform for people from individuals, organizations to come together. And I see that growing, and to include people from various discipline as well as different expertise. You have already started diversifying to include professional bodies, and this needs to grow into other people who could join and then popularize this whole issue on breastfeeding and right food for the children. Last but not the least, the work that has happened is largely on strengthening the skill support for breastfeeding around facilities, but mothers need support at all levels. They need support at facility, they need support at community, they need support as household level, and BPNI and UNICEF do have experience there. What is also needed is really like people's education on breastfeeding. So how do we educate? And the work that you're doing in I Decide, we see it expanding further to educate people, everybody, about the importance of breastfeeding and why it is so critical. So they look forward to the work that BPNI would do around educating masses on breastfeeding, and we can look at how it can be dovetailed into the existing interventions around creating people's movement on nutrition. Once again, my compliments and congratulations to BPNI and the team here, and it's been a privilege to hear your inspiring stories. UNICEF is committed to work on the breastfeeding agenda, and we look forward to collaborating with you, maybe in a different capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Drippika. Thanks for the commitment that you've made to us, and you've always been a great partner. Now, I would like to play a video by Dr. Vandana Prasad, who's the Technical Advisor and Founding Secretary of PHRS, Public Health Resource Society. She could not make it to the event, so she has shared a video message. I hope everyone can see it.
Many congratulations to Arunji and all the members of BPNI for achieving 30 years of the existence of BPNI, which in itself is no mean feat in the circumstances in which we have been engaged in social action. For me, this group is particularly valuable because it brings together like-minded, socially concerned doctors and pediatricians in particular, and that is of huge value to somebody like me. The other thing that's of note, of course, of BPNI is that it has undertaken some of the most difficult challenges in our common kind of struggle to achieve a healthy country with healthy children, which is to take on the power of multinational corporations who are engaged in unhealthy practices affecting the nutrition of children. So hats off to BPNI, and all strength and all energy to them to continue for many years to come, for decades and decades to come, because we surely need a group like BPNI. Thank you very much. Many, many congratulations to Arunji and all the members.
Okay. Uh, now I would like to invite Annelies Elan, former Director, International Code Documentation Center, Malaysia. Over to you, Annelies.
Thank you. I have unmuted myself successfully, I hope.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me. And congratulations on that massive book recording 30 years of history of BPNI. The first time I was involved in India was in 1980 with Dr. Anand. And at that time, Mumbai was still called Bombay. And we spent nights making posters. Remember that, Dr. Anand? Anyway, there were several other visits that follow, including the one that was mentioned in 2012, where we had an enormous number of people, like 800. And each time I come, I admire you, BPNI, the Indian people who are in different ways really fighting to stop the industry which has been stalling legislation. I remember the bill in 1986, it was lapsed for no good reason, and challenges by Nestle, constant challenges. But finally, in 1993, you had the IMS Act in force. And what is special in India, I just want to make 3 points. And that is, one thing is that NGOs can file complaints. There are not many countries where that can happen, where Akash, BPNI, as you have done, where you can file complaints against the companies. So please keep on doing it and teach other countries that it is useful for governments to trust NGOs and to use NGOs for this kind of thing. So that's special in India, I think. Also, BPNI has always joined IPFAN in Geneva for the World Health Assembly, for the lobbyists, and has used the international resolutions at the national level, which is exactly what was meant to be. And it's a very good way. But the second point is that BPNI has always worked with the government and keep on pushing the government. Arun, it's not always successful, but keep on pushing, because you are the one who can push and threaten maybe with media use, because that's the other thing that you do wonderfully in India, to use the media, to use the government and to use the media. Let others learn from you and keep on at it. One third point is to congratulate BPNI on the success with WBTI. It's fantastic. Nupur, you mentioned it. 98 countries, very good to have this, this record. And I remember one monitoring course in 1998. That was one of the best national courses we have done. It was the one where I actually sent a picture. I don't know whether you can see if I show a picture like that. Does it show at all? Anyway, it's a picture where the group is together, and the person who is best dressed on that group picture is Amir Raza, who was there for the first time, who had no idea what IFFAN was, who had no idea what BPNI was, but who learned a lot, and we learned a lot from him because he came with the inside violations of industry. And well, the rest of the story, you know, the Tigers film and so on. But that is the time that we met him the very first time in Delhi, Amir. One last point I would like to stress also that Arun mentioned. Arun, I think it's very courageous to say we're going for self-sufficiency. I hope you continue and you will manage. Several of us in the world have done it. I don't want to say much about the ICDC, which is not the ICDS, by the way. The ICDC, the International Co-Documentation Center, we have been specialized and we've been happy to help BPNI all along, and also in many other countries. We have held more than 60 courses, of course, all kinds of implementation, monitoring, and so on. We've trained 2,000 government officials, and it's not easy for NGOs to be recognized and to see that the NGOs can teach the governments officially. And that was for 148 countries. So more than 60 courses, international courses. Oh, well, there we have the picture. Can you see the best dressed man there in the middle in a black suit? That's Amir Raza, who worked with Nestle before and came to that training course sent by the Pakistani group, the Pakistani IFFAN group. And not easy for Amir to be in India. As you all know, it was not an easy time for Pakistanis to be there, to be accepted, and to have a way to say. Anyway, so that was a wonderful national course. We've had many regional courses, international courses, and I'm very glad to see IFFAN strong as always, continuing worldwide, and to see many faces, many people I have met in these different courses. Well, I can't start mentioning names because I don't think I have the time. I must be running out of time already, Nupur. So
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you can wrap it up.
Okay, finished.
That was quick.
Oh.
No, I didn't want you to interrupt you or something. I mean, you can take a few more seconds.
I didn't know whether I had 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and I know that if I don't fill that whole time, that Anwar will make use of it as well.
Good point.
Thank you, Annalise, for taking us through the memory lane and for your encouraging words. Now, I would like to invite Patty Rundle, Policy Director, Baby Milk Action, United Kingdom. Patty, over to you. And you have 3 to 4 minutes.
3 or 4 minutes. What to say? I mean, everyone tries to shut me up anyway after 1 minute. I'm always going to say something that I shouldn't say. But no, I mean, I am so honored to be invited to come and say something, because BPNI has been hugely important to me and my work and Baby Milk Action, and to the whole of the IFFAN network. As I was mentioning there, I cannot imagine really a good part of the work. I mean, the Baby Milk Action's work has focused on the campaigning and the Nestle boycott and the company campaigns, but also the policy side of actually bringing in laws, the EU and wherever. So, but BPNI's work being there, making sure that everything that it provided was really solid evidence that we could use. I mean, if I go back, Arun, to when I first met you and the deliberation of would India start the boycott or not, and you never had the courage to do that. But never mind, you helped us, and when we were pushing it through the synod or others, you know, and Nestle would say all sorts of things that were completely false. You would have BPNI there, really, and Raj in Akash, you know, really giving us the solid information that we could use to counter what was going on and what was being said. I can't thank you enough for that. It was really, really solidly important. But as the years have gone on, and what I was trying to say in the chat box, everything that BPNI has tried to do has been to make an effective change. You're not just there to be seen doing something. There are so many bogus groups out there now, and the infiltration of the companies, setting up false NGOs that are not really there. They're there to do maybe a 2-year, one-day, you know, wonder, but not really make the changes that BPNI and IDFAN strive to do. Be in there for the long haul, and that is why you're such a fantastic model for other groups. And facing these channels of infiltration, of why conflicts of interest is so important, keeping BPNI free of conflicts of interest is absolutely critical. Raj, you will remember when we, you know, first 1996, when I came to stay with you, and we got that IPA, you know, resolution through, or you did. It was just after the World Health Assembly had actually made that, passed a resolution saying there should be no conflicts of interest. India took it seriously and did it, and actually you have, you know, really carved the way through there. So it's fantastic. I think it's marvelous. Now we have the problem, and I know there are people here who are very involved with the scaling up nutrition and gain. These things are really problematic because there are a lot of organizations, UNICEF, WHO, and others, really heavily involved in this. How do we make sure that this does not impact negatively on everything that we are trying to do to protect breastfeeding and appropriate infant feeding, biodiverse foods? This is a real challenge. Sun and Gain are getting really stronger, and I really look to BPNI's help with this. You have given us such good information to help shape it, and we hope that UNICEF and WHO will really take this on board and make sure that we're not going to be led down a wrong path where industry is everywhere, influencing government at a really key level. I won't go on very much longer, but I really think it's marvelous what you've done, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to say so here, because I think it's marvelous what you've done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you so much. Now I would like to call Mr. Anwar Fazal, Chairperson Emeritus, WABA Malaysia. Over to you, sir.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. It's a joy to celebrate with the family that I have grown up with over 3 decades. I began my own journey in 1941, just at the time of I was a breastfed baby, and there was a Japanese occupation of Malaya. They burst into the village where we were staying, and they burst the door of where my mother was breastfeeding me. I was 5 months old at that time. And when they banged the door and opened it, she just looked up with the baby on her breast and just said, "Baby, you know, baby." They just slammed the door again and went away. Yeah? And it was such a story that which tells you about the power also of the mother and child and the diet, of the mother and child. To me, the next important journey was when I went for the first World Women's Conference in Mexico City in 1975. I spoke about. I was one of the few men there. Talking about the exploitation of women as consumers, and where I met Leah Margulis, and we decided to make a new link between the North and the South, and we together build on a whole new global coalition, and that led to developing a global network like never before, where individuals, institutions of all kinds, from small little groups to the World Council of Churches, to professional organizations, and people all over the globe. It was just amazing. And it was the beginning of the word network. That is live action, participatory, linking between people with a very common interest, with a platform that they all agree on, and together we move. And it was wonderful when BPNI was set up. They also used the word network. That they too were going to be an organization that actually builds the kind of comradeship that you need if you want the movement to go, because you need allies, you need people who will be there with you. You have done some really remarkable, outstanding things that actually makes you now, I think, one of the most important global centers for breastfeeding. And Kathy mentioned that, and I'd like to mention, for example, your work on the World Breastfeeding Trends Initiative. You are the global recorder now of this. I remember the walk we had on the beaches of Penang during several meetings when you came down here, and we were talking about the country report system that the late Andy Chackley had developed, and we were discussing how can we go this. And I told, Arun, I said, do it. You take charge of this and develop a global reporting system. And he came up with this brilliant idea of the World Breastfeeding Trends now, one which the global institutions like WHO also recognize as the single most resource and marker for making changes all over and doing models to other places. I think the other thing that also you have done that puts you now as a major global actor is the World Breastfeeding Conference. And the way that you have managed it, the way you move it, to different continents and keep it going so that the solidarity of our family is kept strong and on. And make the World Breastfeeding Conference again something that we will make sure continues to spin around the world and generates people elsewhere. I think you have become also a very important training center. Capacity building has been one of the very important things that you have done for India and for the southern region. And I think this is an area where you can be a very important multiplier and accelerator. Accelerator means you train people who train others. Yeah? And I think BPNI really can move forward on this. You have demonstrated, I think, like very few organizations that have demonstrated courage. You've demonstrated conscience with your conflict of interest very, very clearly. You have demonstrated creativity, the use of the media, like Annalise said, in many other different unusual ways. You've shown creativity, new ideas that come up that make an impact. You've also shown comprehensiveness, because breastfeeding is an area that men, women are involved in, that global and local are involved in, that different kinds of groups are involved in, and you have had that comprehensiveness of also looking at the various aspects of breastfeeding, the ecology, the economics, the medicine, the nutrition, and also love, and the idea of the mother and child bonding. So I just like to conclude by sharing a poem that I have shared before, which I think demonstrates clearly how BPNI has become a model for us and will continue to be a model with us. And this is a poem by a Latin American poet called Isabel Parra. And he said, just as children never tire of play, just as the condor never tires of flight, so the people will never give up the struggle. Although the days go by, although the years go by, the kindred flame will never die. Keep up the good work, BPNI, and keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar Fazal, for your inspiring words. Now I would like to invite the chair to release BPNI's 30-year report, and I would request all the panelists to open this cover of the report on their phones if they can while we launch the report.
Can we remove the poster inside and then we can...
Yeah, can we remove the poster for a while? We can click a picture. Yes. Thank you everyone. Dr. Vandana.
Well, I'm so happy to release this report, which is not just celebrating 30 years of BPNI, but celebrating the timeless bond between mother and child that nourishes the world. And keeping this alive is our work for the future. Congratulations, and I'm so happy about the report. Beautiful picture, beautiful cover.
Wonderful.
Thank you. That's a painting by a painter named Mr. Santosh. And sir, if you would like to give some background on the paintings that we frequently use in our reports.
So in 2003, when we held a first Asia Pacific conference of 38 countries, we requested one. I met a painter on my holiday in Shimla. He was putting a painting exhibition. So I talked to him in case we can do a live painting painting, not a competition, but a painting for mother and child at the conference site for 4 days. So he brought in four colleagues, so 4 young painters, and this man is known as Tirthankar. So they did 5 paintings, and on the final day of the conference, they donated those paintings for the campaign. So since then, we are using these paintings. They are hanging in our offices, and we use the pictures for our reports or sometimes on the cards. So we cherish that since 2003. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Arun. Now I would like to invite Dr. KP Kushwaha, Chief Coordinator BPNI, to give his remarks and vote of thanks.
I think if Vandana said she will come back and maybe her time to give her address before Kushwaha comes. Is it something, Vandana, you still wanted to say?
I could say a few words if the time is there.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, congratulations and thank you. Now, my own journey, begins with quantum theory, and it was 1984, exactly. The tragedy of Bhopal and the emergence of violence in Punjab that compelled me to look at what's going on with our food systems and our agriculture systems, and why are these big corporations selling poisons that we don't need. And that journey has, of course, brought me to create Nardania, now legally 31 years, but also my journey that brought us together in BPNI. And a few years ago, I think it was just at the time where the malnutrition figures were exploding, where hunger was increasing, we brought out a little booklet together, and I want to remember dear Radha again, because she worked with me on this, on forgotten foods, the millets, as the basis of complementary foods. And I would like to say that it is so, 2023 is the year of millets internationally. And it is time for us to get out of the monocultures of the rice and the wheat and the soya and the corn, and the diversity of foods that make health, with a focus on millets that protect the water, protect the soil, and can grow in the most infertile conditions and are able to face climate change. So let's collectively, all of us, work on millets, not just for children as complementary foods, but for all adults. If we make this food shift, there is a major impact we can have both on the planet's health and people's health. As the work of the Baby Food and Breastfeeding Network, of BPNI, has shown, so importantly, our first food is breast milk. And just as at that time when you all started and you created the boycotts, you showed that it is possible to challenge profits above people's lives. It is possible to challenge giant corporations and their power. And not only that, I think on the positive side is even more important, because you showed how breastfeeding is the living relationship between mother and child, an ecological or biological activity that actually makes the mother's health as well as the child's health, because it contains all the nutrients for neural development and it creates immunity for many diseases for the baby. Antibodies are passed on to the baby, and a lot of mention was made on in reference to COVID. And these are vital issues in terms of resilience and immunity. And meantime, hormones are released into the mother's body that make her healthier, that make her whole. Breast milk is not a product that can be substituted with industrial foods and artificially made in factories and labs. And my work now since 1984 on food has shown that we've suffered many, many misconceptions of food, which has been brought by the mechanistic industrial system. Food is not stuff. Baby food cannot be a formula. It is living. And food is real food is the very currency of life. It's baby food, real best baby food, the breast milk, is the relationship between mother and child, but also the relationship between the health of the planet and the health of people. A few years ago, we did a book on food as health, and what's becoming increasingly clear is that our health is based on the gut microbiome, and the baby's gut microbiome is shaped by breastfeeding. The tastes that the child will need in order to get adapted to a diverse. I have seen children who refuse to have anything but milk till they are 2 and 3 and 4, because those sensors haven't been cultivated, because they were fed on formula from the beginning. In a strange kind of way, they become addicts to that fake food. Behind each taste are sensors. And these sensors grow when the mother is breastfeeding her child. And that prepares the child for being ready for real eating as the child grows. We are in a moment where, if in earlier times, we were talking about ultra-processed food and junk food, which is at the root of so much chronic disease. And all the networks working on breastfeeding were working on formula and fake and food and baby food substitutes. Today, we have reached the stage where the giants would like to totally fake the food, including breast milk. I remember when I was bringing out a report on Gates and his global empire, I had written to all of you to talk about this new initiative of Mr. Gates. And this is not just about the fakeness of food, but the fakeness of knowledge. That here is all the work you all have done, showing that breast milk is the best for children. Your latest report, and Arun, thank you for sending this, your collaboration with the, between you and the IPFAN, the formula for food disaster, which has shown that, of course, putting fake baby food in cans and then dumping those cans and moving it all miles and miles and miles is a total recipe for an environmental disaster. My book called Soil Not Oil has shown that about 50% of the greenhouse gases come from an industrial system, 20% directly from packaging and processing and food miles, another 20% from destroying forests for the raw materials that get used in formula. And a large part is the chemicals that go into this whole system. Your report has shown that the infant formula is dumping 86,000 tons of metal in its 550 million cans. I am so glad you're doing this, because it is junk within the body and junk outside the body. And we need to start connecting these two catastrophes, the health pandemic and the ecological and environmental pandemic. And I've done a lot of writing to show that even the new infectious diseases coming from forests is because we are invading into forests because of the bad food system. And I want to congratulate BPNI, because not only have you stayed so focused on breastfeeding, but your expansion into the conflict of interest, your expansion into the processed food industry, that using the ultimate example of the first food, you have then expanded into what real food should be for health for all. So Bill Gates, as a climate solution, has invested in a firm to Breakthrough Energy Ventures. The firm is called BioMilk, M-I-L-Q. It's non-biological. It's made in a lab, 3.5 million. And of course, it's got patent pending. And it'll be a few centralized factories, just like the formula factories, the shipping around, the packaging, the cans that you have already addressed will just get worse. But the worst is, it is going to make the health disaster for infants as well as adults much, much worse. These are the issues we need to address for the future. What I have learned in these many years with my work on food is real food, good food, sustainable food, just food is diverse. It is natural, without chemicals, without additives, without artificial chemical fertilizers or artificial additives in processing, without GMOs. And it is as close to eating as possible. And what could be better? What is the shortest distance? The shortest distance is mother to baby on a breast. And the bad food system is based on monocultures, is based on the artificial, the formula being example, the biomilk being examples, but also the new epidemic of fake food. Silicon Valley, as if they aren't happy enough with the fact that they are the big technology billionaires, they would now like to make all food fake food made in labs with large acreages of agriculture turned to raw material of proteins and carbohydrates that they would need for these factory foods. And what it does to our gut microbiome, what it does to our health, is not even being looked at. Long distance, all the problems for the earth. It's become very fashionable since COVID to talk of One Health. And I think it is time for the networks working on healthy food for all, beginning with healthy food for babies, which is breast milk, to redefine One Health. One Health as the health of the mother and the child. One Health as the health of the planet and people. One Health as the health of food sovereignty in people's hands. It is a moment where we can, of course, look at the overwhelming power of corrupt corporations. Look at the deregulation around us. But I think that's where the 30 years and 40 years and 50 years of the past and the persistence and the sustainability of activism teaches us that we need to start working for the next 10 years and the next 20 years and the next 30 years. And I want to just say, we are there together with you. And congratulations again and happy birthday again.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mandana Shiva. That was very inspiring. Now I would like to call Dr. KP Kushwaha, Chief Coordinator BPNI, to give his remarks and vote of thanks.
Thank you, Nupur. Thank you so much, Nupur, for being with us in these so many years, and your dedication to BPNI is really commendable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I want to start my thanks first from Dr. Professor R.K. Anand, sir. He has been my spiritual guru. He is a marvelous fighter for welfare of infants and children. And he is a leader who makes leader. So I am fortunate to be one of his spiritual student, and he has done commendable work, and he has made my life so easy that for last 30 years, I have been with him and with BPNI, and these were the best part of my life. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us on this prestigious day. And I want to thank Drippika, Dr. Drippika Srivastav, who has been very passionate, professional, and she has been one who understands BPNI from heart. Thank you so much, Drippika. I also want to thank Arun. He is one and only one passionate crusader of breastfeeding, and he has been one of very close to my heart. I have been with him for so many years, and I have learned so many things from you. Thank you so much for launching these 30 years birthday. And thank you, JC, for being with us. Tnai has been friend of us, and it can do extremely well in future, making breastfeeding counseling at every doorstep. Dr. Gayatri has been very close to BPNI. She has been immensely helpful to BPNI. She has appreciated our network, and I think that she will be one who will be supporting us and guiding us in the future also. It's a very fortunate day for me to thank Annalise. She has been very brave, very sincere, and she has been very dedicated, and at the same time very firm. I have to thank Dr. Bandana, our chief guest. She has been so intelligent, so bright. She has so much insight of breastfeeding. You, madam, really deserve so much thanks from BPNI for giving us insight of what you have learned for so many years. Patty has been very energetic, focused, and straightforward. She has a point as sharp as a needle, but she is very strong as an arrow. So we have learned so many things from Patty, from you, from so many years. But it has been really great to have you here with us on this prestigious occasion of BPNI. Anwar Fazal. Oh, you have been a great speaker and ideologist for me. You have been a person par excellence, and unique advocate and motivator of breastfeeding, protection, promotion, and support. It was really a fortunate day for us to have you today. It has been really great to have all those from BPNI who are working from behind, and for all those friends who are here with us on this day. Thank you all for being with us, and so are other people who are supporting and who are advertising us in masses. Just make few remarks in these 3 minutes left. One is that we are ethical institution. Ethical institution, as Arun has said, it's from heart and from speech and from action. For so many years, we have been working, and people have supported us, and we have faced difficulties, and we have faced financial crisis. We felt that we are left alone. But we have never came down, and we have never surrendered to our ethics and our ideology. I have been working in the field of practice, breastfeeding practice, infant feeding practice. What I have seen in these years, that I hardly find few babies who are exclusively breastfed for 6 months. I say hardly because when I get the baby who has been breastfed exclusively, I am thrilled, I enjoy the baby. But most of the babies who come who are sick, they are artificial fed babies. Recently, I have seen that there is epidemics, new epidemics of diseases which had never been seen. Like constipation, every day I get 5 to 10 babies who are constipated, and for weeks, for days, they don't pass stool. And bronchial asthma, asthmatic babies, they are really difficult to imagine. It's an epidemic of asthma which is coming. All these are because of artificial feeding. In my practice, I also observe about conferences. We say that we have a very strong academy, we have a very strong body which has our ethics that will not take sponsorship from companies. But I have seen that our members get registered through them, through companies, to get into conferences. So this is something which really is paining me so much. Formulas and bottles, they are really rampant in clinical practice, I see. People who come to conferences, who come to meeting, they come only when the companies sponsor a meeting. When the meeting is held on self-sponsorship, hardly it is attended by few people. I am proud of those few people who attend, but it's very difficult. Friends, we in BPNI are facing challenge problems. We need that we all come together with, as Professor Anand has given Guru Mantra, that we have to join our hands together to strengthen BPNI and to create a counseling of infant and young child feeding to each and every mother, starting from pregnancy and thereafter up to the babies who are older. We have not to forget older babies, because I have been seeing that high blood sugar is really rampant in adolescents because of those who are fed on commercial infant foods, commercial foods for those older children. As Arun has been working on leveling of those foods. So those foods like Horlicks and Bournvita and those, they are causing really raised blood sugar to adolescents. So thank you all for being with us. Thank you so much. And I think that this has been a great day for BPNI. We need your blessings and support and your good wishes for BPNI in future. Thank you all. Thank you so much.